What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Inner Alchemist TV. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look into Ken of Love and Marriage Huntsville. So before we get started, please like this video. Make sure that you are subscribed to this channel, okay? And turn your notification bells on. So I'm going to jump right into the reading. I usually be talking, but my readings be so long. I'm like, you know what? Just jump right in, like get into the tea. So that's exactly what I'm about to do. Okay. So the overall energy for the reading is the Queen of Swords. That's Aries, Aquarius, Libra, Gemini, heavy on the Libra. And this represents making a decision and making a decision that's final. Sometimes it can involve cutting somebody off, if not forever, certainly for the time being. But this is about somebody who's very clear, logical, and incisive and quick. Ain't nothing getting past her. However, there's sort of like a bitterness in her heart, right? You know what? This is the way that I look at bitterness of the heart. Sometimes when you're closed off emotionally, it causes you to actually stay in situations longer than you would if your intuition was active, letting you know when you were at risk for threat or when it was something flying, you know, kind of like beneath the radar. Now, the good thing is that when you catch on and you do something about it. And I'm a big purveyor of, listen, if you ain't gonna do nothing about it, don't even confront the situation, right? But this Queen of Swords, she does something about it when she finally catches on. And I'm feeling like she's catching on to Ken. He been trying to fool her or fool the world for a very long time about what he is, what he represents, what he stands for. And I'm showing that, listen, it's about to be revealed. The truth about him is about to come out. Now, I picked up on it a little while back because on one of the episodes of the show, he was having this conversation with his homeboys, and he was talking about like the relationship between him and Trish, and he just said this like comment. He was like, oh, well, you know, if I need to get out of it, I know how to get out of it. And I was like, well, nigga, how the fuck you gonna get out of it? Like, what you gonna do? You know what I mean? But it let me know that he had this kind of sneaky and manipulative side to him, you know, in saying that I'm gonna go on with this for as long as I can, but at the end of the day, I know how to play my cards to where I'll end this shit. You know what I mean? And I don't know, that just didn't sit right with me, right? So I always had a side eye to him. Not saying he's a bad guy, just saying he ain't all good, right? So the reading is opening up with the Three of Swords. The Three of Swords represents strife. And that strife usually comes from misunderstandings. Now, the misunderstandings could be about him dealing with somebody else. However, I do have that clarified by the Seven of Swords. And sometimes the Seven of Swords is like trying to even the playing field. And it's like a couple who says, okay, you cheated on me, so I'm going to cheat back on you, so shit could be even. You know what I mean? So whatever situation they have, the deck is stacked more so against him in terms of him not being the one to have the one up or to get over. And this is him almost kind of strategizing or having committed some type of act, but the motivation behind him doing what he was doing was to even up the playing field, right? So there's some misunderstandings, definitely. And as a result, like I said, I'm showing a lot of strife, a lot of arguing with each other. And I feel like almost like the two of them are breaking each other's heart. In the recent past, we have the Nine of Pentacles. And to me, that shows a woman who's recently single and tending to her own garden and not really worried too much about what another person has going on. This is the anti-codependent energy. This is not a woman that's going to need to be one half of a team. She's perfectly fine securing her bag by herself, handling her business by herself. And maybe that can feel isolating to a person like Ken, because when you're coming in as the Seven of Swords, it does denote some type of insecurity or even emotional instability or mental instability because of the source energy in some cases, right? So anyways, there's definitely been heartbreak. You know what I mean? There's definitely been sad. And I feel like he's the type of person that covers up his sadness with anger. So there's some hurt feelings, right? There's power imbalances. They have different ideologies on almost everything from politics to groceries. They have different ideologies, and instead of him handling that in like a constructive way, he tends to be more aggressive, whether that aggression comes out emotionally, verbally, or physically. He does that to mask some of his other vulnerabilities. And maybe that's something that Trisha can't really deal with or doesn't want to deal with, or something that they just have to kind of work around, right? Yeah, but anyway, somebody's agonizing over the situation for sure. I'm also showing that he may be a bit of a pathological liar. I know the term narcissistic is overblown. I'm not heavy on using that often, but there is a certain pathology to him that maybe weaponizes emotions or weaponizes. It's almost like he gets an emotional hold on somebody, or he gets some type of hold on somebody, and then he uses that to leverage power. You know what I mean? And so if you have a woman who's independent, like with this Queen of Swords and like with this Nine of Pentacles, then he will do things to undermine her. And some of those things to undermine her may include taking on a third party. Tons of third party energy here. I got the Three of Swords, I got the Three of Cups in reverse, and I have the High Priestess in reverse. The High Priestess in reverse is the other woman, right? So all of these represent sneaky, lying, undermining activities coming from Ken. And like I said, it could be just because she has that thing going on with her ex, and maybe he feels like, okay, if I have some cards too, I can operate better in the situation, but I don't feel comfortable being completely vulnerable or exposed or wholly available when it's a potential for you to turn back on what you got going on. Now, the Queen of Swords represents also a divorced woman, so I don't know if Trish has finalized her divorce, but sometimes that can be an ex-wife. It can also be a widow, but usually it's a single woman. If Ken hasn't done the things I'm talking about, he's definitely planning on it. And whatever he's trying to do is unethical, because you're not being straight up, you're not communicating, and you're going to get caught on top of that. And I feel like whatever he's going to get caught doing is going to be like the talk of the town. I see people gossiping about it. I see it being the subject of conversation, and people basically saying, okay, you different from the way that we perceived you, or your conduct, who you really are, is different from like your conduct. You know what I mean? I feel like Ken also feels like somebody took from him. I don't know. I feel like there's energy here of something being stolen. And listen, I don't want to be corny, but Three of Swords is here. It could be you stole my heart, okay? I know that's a little bit on the romantic side, but it could be you stole my heart. In any event, like I said, somebody's trying to play games. I feel like, in a way, Ken tricked himself into believing that he could handle a situation just fine. But in or he tricked everyone else. And like I said, I think the tricking of everyone else would even still offshoot off tricking himself. But he's like putting on like he can handle it all, or he has it all, or he's like the dream guy. But in reality, he's unstable, whether that's financially, mentally. He's insecure on the inside. And so I feel like this Seven of Swords is him reacting out of that reality of who he is, right? Unstable, insecure. I see him acting out of that in an aggressive way towards Trish, maybe. But really, it's because his front man or his outer man or whoever it is he was trying to portray himself to be, is the mask is slipping. You know what I mean? And so he's kind of maybe feeling exposed with this Seven of Swords in reverse, because it's about getting caught. But I'm also seeing like an element of sabotage, which made me call upon that example I said when I heard him and his friends talking. And he was talking about, oh, if I need to get out of the situation, I know how. But it's making me feel like, okay, so are you intentionally trying to sabotage the relationship? Because again, you feel insecure, or because you're really unstable. Maybe you don't have it like that. Yeah, that's kind of like what I'm showing. It's almost like he's forfeiting the situation in a way. I also feel like he's looking to other people. And again, it could be part of a storyline, because I show the Five of Wands here, and that usually represents a fight and a competition with others. And we're looking at these readings in context of the show, right? So what that means is that no matter what I see on a personal level, it has to play into information that, you know what I mean, is either out there or in accordance with the show. So that's how I interpret these spreads, right? But I feel like he's like on a path to like not burn shit down, but there's almost like a element of self-sabotage or self-destruction, if I could say that. You know what I mean? I feel like he's kind of going off of the path of what maybe they agreed on. I also feel like there's kind of like a Robin Hood energy coming off of this Seven of Swords in reverse, and saying that in relationship to the castmates, he's trying to seek more equity. And if he gotta sabotage relationships, or do something extreme to put the attention on them as a couple so that they end up with more equity in the situation socially, then he's prepared to do that. In other words, I feel like he's tired of taking like the short end of the stick. And that's whether it has to do with this show or whether it has to do in his relationship. He's feeling like fighting for it or something like that. But again, like I said, I think it comes off of I think a lot of it has to do with insecurity. This is going to come out. The Six of Swords is in reverse. I feel like this definitely represents difficulty with leaving. And I'm looking at the Two of Wands next to that. And for me, the Two of Wands is like you juggling two things. Not juggle like the Two of Pentacles, but you're weighing kind of like two options. Like you got the world in your hand in one aspect, but at the same time, you're longing for more, or you're looking for something else. You know what I mean? Even though you may have everything, you got a woman, you got a tight body, you got a pseudo family, whether it's yours or not. But again, I feel like he wants more. Like I said, more from the show, more visibility, more attention, more money. It could be anything. And this is about him deciding how he wants to make the next move, and him looking at several courses of action that he could take. So this is giving me a person actually that sat back and kind of peeped game and gathered all of the information to figure out how he wants to play this, and feeling like, okay, what move can we make to put us in a power position so that we can do what we want to do. Now, like I said, is that a we thing? I'm not sure, because Trisha's coming up as single in this spread in the recent past and in the overall energy. And the reading is opening up with the Three of Swords, which is a breakup. So either that may be the focal point, but again, that's going to be something that's aggressive and something that's strategically planned out in order to sabotage the situation. The world card is here again. We just talked about that in Martell's reading. Usually when I'm looking at a negative implication of a card, it's in reverse. However, it's upright, and I'm still getting stripper vibes because of its position next to this high priestess, which represents the secret woman, the other woman. And there's a sense of him allocating resources towards that other person. So if there is another woman in the picture, he's taking care of that person or giving that person money. Yeah. There's opportunities here, but again, I feel like he's weighing his options because it's not giving me like the vibe of him just like walking right into it and saying, okay, this is the route we want to go. Because there's still like this element of competition or a contest. And like I said, I've often viewed this show as somewhat of not like a reindeer game, but I view it as the couples competing. That was one of my main points of contention with Letitia, Marceau, and the Scotts and everything. I felt like they played a hard game when it came to Melody and Martell and the divide and conquer and getting them off of the show and making the show all about them and their family and bringing their people in and running those checks. I always felt like that was part of the competition or the power struggle. And now with the Holtz out the way, essentially, now you got other couples joining the game. You got the Trish and Ken. You got the Nell and Chris. You got the Kimmy and Maurice. And it's like I said, it's games. It's games being played. I feel like there's some aggression between these couples though. Like, I don't know if it's some tensions or hostilities or somebody gonna be bumping heads. I don't know if that's the route they're going to want to take as far as getting on the map, but definitely finna be a lot of conflicts and disagreements with this couple. However, we have to be real when we look at the Five of Wands, because the Five of Wands is not real strife. It's like, what do they call it? Running a play. It's like running a play. You know what I mean? It's like a fake conflict, or somebody who turns something little into something big to run a play, to run the move, doing too much. But really what they're doing is jockeying for some type of position. Yeah. Now on the flip side, this could represent his own crew. And, and him fighting with his own crew. I ain't gonna take it that far, but it could be, I don't know if I don't want to say got with like one of his homeboys' girlfriends or old girlfriends. It could be even something that's salacious when it comes to the High Priestess in reverse. Then I got that damn Nine of Swords. That's showing me somebody haunted, you know what I mean, by some shit that they did. Now, like I said, with the Three of Swords and the Nine of Swords, this could also just represent like the loss of a loved one or something they're thinking about on that level. But I'm not showing like necessarily grief. I'm showing somebody like being haunted by some shit that they did. Because this is more like giving me like disturbing the peace. Disturbing the sleep. You see the Nine of Swords is up in bed, up at night, thinking all the time about something that was kind of like that happened that was out of their control. You know what I mean? Or if he lost Trisha because of this cheating or this incident, it's almost like he feels like it was his own fault. And it was, because you either strategize the shit consciously or unconsciously. Like you undermined the situation because you were angry about something or sad about something. But for me, sadness to a man, anger is a man's sadness, right? But I also see this as just him feeling like he's getting the short end of the stick and he doesn't have like the backup. Whether it's Trisha's kids or Trisha's ex-husband, she still has a whole army or team on her side, and it's just him relying on her to bring him in or be that bridge and be that connection. He doesn't like that. So whatever happened, it was inevitable. I feel like the kind of like breakup, if that's what it is. It was written all over the situation, you know what I mean? And I feel like there was a big huge argument, and like I said, I mean, it doesn't look like he came out on top of it. When you got the Seven of Swords in reverse, this is like a botched, or maybe it didn't go like how he thought it would go. You know what I mean? Maybe he thought he would cheat or tease Trisha with this other woman, and she was quick to cut him off or something like that, and he wasn't anticipating that. Or even with that Seven of Swords and Three of Swords, because it represents mental challenges, he could have even tried to test her. You know what I mean? To like see like, okay, like, do you really love me? Are you really with me? And he may not have got the response that he wanted to get. She may have cut the nigga off. You know what I mean? He did something, and I feel like he doesn't know the extent of his actions. Like I said, he could have had other men involved, because there's a fight here. And again, this could be him flying off the handle and not knowing the extent of how far that would go, or you know, him measuring out the extent of what he was doing. Like I said, there's a sense of you being a hothead or unstable, mentally, emotionally unstable. Yeah, it could be something like that. That World card is there. Now, technically, the World card represents completion and wrapping up cycles. Now, if I look at the card in a literal sense, like I said, a naked dancing woman, a stripper, especially next to that High Priestess, I can play off that easily. But I feel like, I don't know, maybe there's a completion of their storyline. But the World card is not a negative completion. Like, this is like wrapping it up. Or maybe it could be the season wrapping. It could be something as simple as that. Maybe the season wrapping up, without me thinking too deep into it. But because it does represent a culmination. But in looking at all these cards, the culminating idea is that you some violent, aggressive gorilla simp, okay? Trying to forge your way into shit because you feel like people was trying to get over on you, or you not getting nothing out of a situation, and you turning it up a notch. But at the same time, it's secrets. We can't get around that High Priestess. That's secrets. And the secrets is based on lies. I don't believe that all secrets are based on lies. I believe in privacy. I don't believe you need to know every single detail of your mate's life. I don't believe that everything they keep from you is a secret. I don't personally believe that. But in this spread, these are secrets, especially with that Seven of Swords and High Priestess in reverse next to each other. But they're coming out because somebody's getting caught. And maybe they trying to act more prudish and be more available and trying to cover the shit up. Nah. Six of Swords, even though it's about moving on, it is also a card of exposure. And this Six of Swords is in reverse, which is showing me you ain't moving away and getting away from this fast. You got that Three of Cups in reverse too? You finna sit your ass down. But I feel like most of this is just telling me that he was a wolf in sheep's clothing. You know what I mean? And something's coming out that's going against him. For sure. You know? Now, I feel like I said, I feel like Ken is one of those emotional guys who can kind of like intuit a situation, and that's how he knows how to move within it. But because he chose to weaponize his intuition or his intelligence for nefarious means, I'm showing that he doesn't really know how to move right now. He's broken off from his intuition or his manufactured, way of being. And like I said, the mask is slipping. Now you being aggressive. Now you being untamed. Now people seeing like, ooh, like, okay. Is this a man boy that we're dealing with? What's going on? What's really going on? Why are you doing this? I feel like he's definitely, if he, listen, like I said, if this has not happened, he's definitely flirting with someone. Yeah, and the high priestess, guess what? She could even be like a friend. The high priestess is what? I think she's a Pisces. I want to say the high priestess is a Pisces, but they're not. Well, I don't know, because we got Leo, Scorpio, Taurus, Aquarius, or Pisces. Yeah. Is anybody on the show any of those? Aquarius, Taurus, Libra, Leo, Scorpio, because he may be sneaking around with somebody on the show. I don't know. But again, like I said, I think that all of this involves him wanting to have a one-up. I don't feel like he wants it to be out necessarily. But he wants something for himself to give him a sense of security in case shit goes wrong, or in case he's got over on. Yeah. But other than that, like I said, lots of feminine energy here. When I see feminine energy in a man's spread, I know that they be having mood swings. You know what I mean? And sometimes in mood swings, they use that, to bully other people, or just act like a bitch, right? Anyways, listen, y'all let me know what y'all think about this reading. I don't know what's going on with the show at all. But listen, I'm going straight by the cards, and I guess we're gonna have to see how this plays out, right? So go ahead and like this video. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel. Turn your notification bells on. Check me out on the Inner Alchemist at Etsy. Don't forget to take advantage of your return to senders, right? We're releasing all negative energy, putting ourselves on just clarity, right? Mercury is the planet of communication, right? Which means that you can clear your mind, you can organize your finances, get your car fixed. In retrograde, usually those create problems. And so when people are sending negative energy at you, then you see the breakdown of those things. You know what I mean? You see accidents and shit like that going on. And so it's important to protect yourself by utilizing your own energy and will. And that's what the Inner Alchemist is about. It's about taking a step, whether you're using your oil or your aromatic mist or your candles. It's about you participating in your own will and intention. So check me out on the Inner Alchemist at Etsy. Listen, and if nothing else, smash that like button, right? And guess what? I'm gonna see y'all on the next video. Peace.